The website is Advancing American Freedom, led by former Vice President Mike Pence, and some new hires in recent days and weeks. Pleased to welcome John Malcolm. He is head of the Meese Institute for the Rule of Law at Advancing American Freedom. Hey, John, welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be with you.
I want to begin with actions by the House Oversight Committee. We heard yesterday and again today from James Comer. He is the chair of that committee, holding both Bill and Hillary Clinton in contempt, the two refusing to testify yesterday for the former president, today the former Secretary of State, regarding the Epstein investigation. The Clinton lawyers saying that there's really nothing there. They have nothing more to offer. They've already provided testimony in terms of written statements. Legally, what are the Clintons facing, and what do you think will happen?
Well, I think the defense that they're asserting is really that there's no legislative purpose for these subpoenas. Just sitting there and saying, I've got nothing else to say to you wouldn't be good enough. But, look, I think the House is going to, the Comer Committee is certainly going to vote to hold them in contempt. It'll go to a vote of the full House. And if they vote to hold them in contempt, it will be referred to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of Columbia for possible criminal prosecution. It's a high-stakes game that the Clintons are playing. Obviously, this is a source of incredible embarrassment to Bill Clinton and quite possibly to Hillary Clinton, too. So they are preferring to say, you can look at the photos and reach whatever conclusions you want, but we got nothing more that we want to say to you. And we will see where it goes. There will certainly be a big discussion about it, debate in the House, and it'll go from there. But potentially they will face criminal charges, and they could end up becoming convicted felons and lose their liberty and everything that goes along with that.
We'll see what happens in the House if there's a full vote, where that goes. But of course, Steve Bannon went to jail because of contempt of Congress. So is it possible to conceive that Bill and Hillary Clinton could serve jail time if this goes through the process?
Yes, I'd still say it's probably unlikely, but it's distinctly possible. I mean, you ignore congressional subpoenas at your peril. Comer said that they tried to reach accommodations with the Clintons in terms of scheduling and that they were as accommodating as they could be, and all of a sudden there are new roadblocks being put in their way, and they're refusing to appear. And occasionally these cases do get prosecuted, such as the one involving Steve Bannon, and that could well be the fate that the Clintons face.
So this is what the Speaker of the House, being peppered by questions by, among others, CNN's Manu Raju yesterday regarding the Clintons, and what about President Trump? Let's listen.
Clintons defied the subpoena today. One, are you going to hold them in contempt? Two, should the House Oversight Committee also pursue Trump and get testimony from him with as much zeal?
Why would they need it? President Trump
he had a past relationship.
President Trump gives open, unending press conferences on a daily basis. Anybody can ask him anything, and he's addressed this issue ad nauseum.
Under oath, it's different.
The Clintons have not, and I think it's defiance of Congress for them to defy the subpoena. I think by definition, it's a contempt of Congress, and we'll have to see how that plays out.
But what Manu Raju was trying to press the Speaker, John, was whether or not Donald Trump would testify under oath. He can be asked questions by reporters. It's very different if you are before a congressional committee. And I do recall after the pardon of Richard Nixon that President Gerald Ford did testify before a congressional committee to outline details on that front. So is it even possible that we could see Congress force Trump to testify along with President Clinton?
Yeah, I consider it highly unlikely. I suppose it's possible after the midterm elections, if the Democrats retake the House, that they might try to do that. But I hadn't realized that Gerald Ford had voluntarily appeared. I assume he did it voluntarily before a House committee. Pretty rare for a president, a separate branch of government, to show up and testify under oath before a congressional hearing.
And of course, he did that as a 25-year veteran of the House, so he understood the complexities of the issue. And yes, to your point, I recall sitting down and talking with him about that. It was rare. It was extraordinary. It was in the fall of 1974 that Gerald Ford did testify in the Nixon pardon. We're talking to John Malcolm from Advancing American Freedom. And John, I want to ask you about some federal prosecutors, perhaps as many as a dozen, indicating that they plan to leave the Justice Department. All of this over the Trump administration's handling of the shooting in Minnesota. Some upset because the investigation is at the wife of Nicole Good and nothing aimed at Jonathan Ross. A lot of questions on the video, and depending on where you sit is how you view that video. How remarkable is it, though, that we would have these resignations, these departures, at least 6, and potentially, according to Reuters and WCCO TV in Minneapolis, as many as 12?
Well, I would have said it was all remarkable, except for there have been a number of prosecutors at the Department of Justice who have either had their employment terminated or who have voluntarily resigned or taken advantage of a buyout during Donald Trump's second term. So, yeah, you have a number of career people in the Civil Rights Division here at Maine Justice, across the street from me, who are very upset, and they are resigning. They've been resigning from that division in droves, and now you have several attorneys in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minneapolis who are resigning for a couple of reasons. One, they're upset that the state has not been allowed to come in and investigate this. They are also upset that the Department of Justice is not conducting a pattern and practice investigation against ICE officers to see whether or not they've violated people's constitutional rights, and also seemingly that they are being ordered to conduct an investigation against the widow now of Ms. Good, who was unfortunately killed by the ICE agent, whether wrongfully or not depends on your perspective, I suppose.
Let me ask you about another issue. Of course, so much news coming here in Washington, but the announcement on Friday that DOJ investigating Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, his term expires in May. Jerome Powell, in that rare video statement posted Sunday evening, saying this is all about interest rates and the president doubling down on trying to lower interest rates. Jeanine Pirro, who is the U.S. attorney here in Washington, D.C., had these remarks about that investigation. I want to play that and get your thoughts about what this is really all about, what DOJ is looking into, and whether or not you think Jerome Powell does, in fact, face criminal charges. Let's listen.
And he's using this language about the independence of the Federal Reserve as some kind of ability for them to ignore any kind of legal oversight or legal scrutiny, or that would require us not to investigate potential lying before Congress. That's not how we work. No one is above the law.
So no doubt nobody is above the law, but John Malcolm, what is this all about?
Yeah, well, Jerome Powell, in his statement, both the recorded one and written one that he issued Sunday night, rather extraordinary statement, acknowledged that no one is above the law, including him. So he testified last June before a Senate Banking Committee, and he talked about the renovations that have been going on to the Fed's main building. It's the Eccles building, their main headquarters. And it is way over budget by some $700 million. And when he finished testifying, a Congresswoman, Representative Luna from Florida, wrote a referral to the Department of Justice that said that she thought that he had lied under oath about the reasons for the delays and the extent of the over costs, cost overruns, et cetera. And the department has seemingly taken that up. They've issued a grand jury subpoena to the Fed for all sorts of information about the renovations that were going on. Jerome Powell, actually, after he testified, had asked the Fed's Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, who used to be the Inspector General at the Department of Justice, to look into these cost overruns to see whether there are any improprieties there. He has come out and said, look, Donald Trump has been saying for months that he thinks I'm incompetent, he wants to fire me, he's upset that the Fed has not lowered interest rates at a fast enough clip, and this is really all just designed to pressure him and his fellow Federal Reserve governors, on the Board of Governors, to doing what it is he wants in terms of lowering the interest rates by greater amounts and faster. Hard to say. I don't know the merits of the case, but you certainly see now a very, very long list of people whom the president has made quite clear he does not like: Jim Comey, Letitia James, Chris Wray, others. Have now been indicted or are under investigation, and that is some people view that as a weaponization of the Justice Department and problematic. We'll see where it goes. It goes from there, but this is a serious matter. He ends his chairmanship in May, by the way, but he has another 2 years on the Fed. So usually when chairmen are done with their chairmanship, they resign or they step down. Powell may choose not to do that.
Well, a remarkable development here in Washington as we follow what happens. Some Republican senators like John Kennedy and Senator Tillis saying they better move quickly because otherwise the next nominee will be a nomination that will be held up in the Senate. John Malcolm, thanks so much for being with us. I appreciate it.